Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at the book The New Science of the Mind, From Extended Mind to Embodied Phenomenology by Mark Rowlands. Rowlands attempts to provide a philosophical foundation for the extended mind theory. In so doing, he runs counter to the traditional concept of cognitive science. Extended mind theory claims that our minds aren't confined within the boundaries of our skulls, but extend into the body and, surprisingly, into the environment around us. I will try to transmit his main argument and give you some excerpts as well. That way you will be able to decide whether or not you want to invest reading the book. Let's jump right in with our first excerpt. Cognitive science, in its traditional form, is based on the idea that mental processes are abstract programs realized in the hardware of the brain. Whatever else is true of mental processes, whether they are abstract formal processes or patterns of activity in a neural network, they are processes that occur inside the head of the thinking organism. This view is also referred to as the Cartesian view. In contrast, the extended mind theory claims that mental processes are 1. Embodied, 2. Embedded, 3. Enacted, and 4. Extended. Each of these ideas, embodiment, embeddedness, enactedness, and extendedness, has been understood as denying or at least questioning the central assumption of Cartesian cognitive science. Mental processes are identical with or exclusively realized by brain processes. The extended mind theory stresses that what we call the mind is a set of processes. So rather than looking at the mind as a thing or a sort of essence, the processes that constitute mind are perceiving, remembering, reasoning, and expressing information. This notion contrasts with the traditional Cartesian dualism, which separates mind from body and considers consciousness as inherently bound to a physical, individual brain. Rowlands exemplifies that with objects and devices outside our body, like a notebook to support your memory or a GPS system for orientation, that can function as extension of our mind, because according to extended mind theory, they are integrated into our cognitive processes. So the mind can extend into the external environment through interactions with objects, tools, and other entities. The central question that the book seeks to answer is: can states, processes, and structures that exist outside the brain form part, a generally cognitive part, of cognitive processes? Cartesian cognitive science answers no. Cognitive processes are exclusively realized by brain processes. Non-Cartesian cognitive science answers yes. Some cognitive processes can have as literal constituents processes occurring outside the brain. In answering this question, Rowlands first retraces the history of the traditional Cartesian view of the mind and unfurls a lot of adjacent concepts such as mental representations, transformational rules, token identity, and he offers important tangential information, such as, for instance, there being 3 distinct types of memory: procedural memory, semantic memory, and episodic memory, or that neural networks engage in 4 types of pattern mapping: pattern recognition, pattern completion, pattern transformation, and pattern association. So, in reading the book, you benefit from a good dose of cognitive science basics. Rowlands goes out of his way to conceive an ontic thesis of the extended mind, developing his argument in great detail and discussing objections and counter-arguments along the way. His main argument can be summarized as follows. Premise 1. Cognitive processes include not only brain activities but also involve interactions with the body and environment. Premise 2. If an external object or process plays a consistent functional role in cognition, it becomes part of the cognitive process. Premise 3. The mind, therefore, is not confined within the skull but can extend to include external objects and processes. Conclusion. Thus, the traditional internalist view is incomplete, and a more accurate understanding of cognition includes the extended mind thesis, where mind, body, and environment interact as a unified system. Rowlands' argument is logically consistent and grounded in well-articulated premises that challenge traditional internalist assumptions. The argument's soundness, however, depends on accepting the premise that functional integration suffices for cognitive inclusion, which some might dispute. There are also practical concerns regarding how far the extended mind concept should extend. If nearly any object or process can become mind when used for cognitive process purposes, the boundaries of the mind may become murky and overly inclusive. Rowlands dives into phenomenology to explain how we experience the world. He argues that phenomenology shows that our subjective experiences cannot be separated from the context in which they arise. He explains, experience is not something that occurs in isolation. It is embedded in a context that shapes it. This perspective highlights the embedded nature of cognition, where experiences are not isolated events but dynamically influenced by the external world and the self's interaction with it. In the final sections of the book, Rowlands discusses the broader implications of his thesis on consciousness and the self. He challenges the traditional idea that consciousness is merely a product of neural activities within the brain. According to Rowlands, consciousness is not limited to the brain. It is distributed across the mind-body-environment nexus. This approach redefines the self as an open, adaptive system that is influenced by internal and external processes. This has profound implications for fields such as neurophilosophy. It marks a shift of focus from brain-centric models of the mind to more holistic perspectives that consider both embodiment and the role of the environment. A standard objection to the concept of the extended mind is the problem of cognitive bloat. Cognitive bloat refers to the risk of overextending the boundaries of cognition to include too many external elements, resulting in an excessively broad and murky definition of what constitutes a cognitive process. Rowlands addresses cognitive bloat by proposing criteria like epistemic authority and ownership, which help define the boundaries of extended cognition more precisely. Epistemic authority refers to the degree of control, understanding, and authorship that an individual has over a cognitive process. When a process extends into the environment, such as through tools or other aids, this process is still considered owned by the person if they retain epistemic authority over it. In order to make this concept a bit more tangible, let's use the example of a human being using AI to write a book. This provides an illustrative way to understand when authorship can be legitimately claimed. A human can claim authorship of the book if they maintain a high degree of epistemic authority over the AI's contributions. In particular terms, this would mean that human is actively involved in guiding, understanding and controlling the AI's output. If the human provides detailed prompts, selects topics, structures arguments, and integrates personal insights or interpretations, they have a significant role in shaping the book's content. Even if the AI assists by generating text, the human's intellectual guidance and personal perspective are central, so they can claim authorship. If the human carefully reviews, edits, and refines the AI's output to ensure it aligns with their own understanding, voice, or style, they exercise epistemic authority. This process means that AI is an assistant in content generation rather than an autonomous creator. The human remains the principal author because they control the quality, accuracy, and presentation of ideas. If the human curates and selectively incorporates AI-generated ideas that fit their vision while discarding irrelevant or misaligned content, they are exercising epistemic authority. This selection process shows that the human is not simply accepting AI output, but is actively shaping and owning the final content. In these cases, the AI serves as a tool or an extension of the human's cognitive process. The human remains the primary author because they control the narrative, the tone, and intellectual direction of the work. By understanding cognition and identity as not strictly inside individuals, people might become more open to collaborative and communal forms of identity. The softening of the self could, in theory, lead to a less individualistic and more interconnected worldview, which might help alleviate some aspects of conflict rooted in rigid, isolated senses of identity. When people view themselves as part of a larger cognitive and social network, there may be a reduction in tendencies towards adversarial, conflictual relations, since the boundaries between self and other become more permeable. In that way, this view could replace the role of religion. It could function in ways that religions historically have, particularly in shaping collective identities and fostering a sense of interconnectedness. Religions often serve to create tight-knit communities that provide support, guidance, and shared rituals. Extended mind theory's view of the self as part of a cognitive social network could inspire similar communal bonds, especially if it fosters a shift towards collective forms of identity and responsibility. Extended mind theory also stresses a procedural view of cognition where thinking is not a series of isolated private events, but is enacted through interactions with external systems and practices. This procedural view indeed brings attention to human susceptibility to influence. By understanding that cognition is shaped by external tools, media, and social contexts, we can become more aware of how these external factors may be used manipulatively. In the context of brainwashing, propaganda, and mind control, understanding the procedural nature of cognition could serve as a defense mechanism. It could help people develop critical awareness about the ways in which their thoughts and beliefs are shaped by external sources. There you go. Mark Rowlands' book offers a detailed conceptual account of the extended mind theory. If you are philosophically inclined, you will appreciate his thorough argumentation and his accessible language. For those intrigued by the nature of consciousness, this book provides a great framework for contemplating cognition in a new light. If you're interested in breaking away from brain-bound theories of mind, Rowlands' ideas are definitely worth exploring. That is it for today. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking, sharing and subscribing if you liked the video, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.